and Justice segment tonight. New federal statistics show deportation orders and self-removals are up nearly a third under President Trump. Shortly after taking office, the president signed an executive order calling for increased deportations. And according to statistics, there were nearly 50,000 orders from immigration judges to remove illegal immigrants between February 1st and July 31st, and an additional 7,000 illegal immigrants who decided to leave on their own, which is a 30% increase from the Obama years. With me now, Communications Director from FAIR Immigration, Dave Ray. Dave, I wonder what's so different. Maybe it's the fact that President Donald Trump isn't rolling out the red carpet for illegal immigrants, promising them driver's licenses, free, welfare, free school for their kids.
Sanctuary cities.
Sanctuary cities.
Right.
I mean, Obama,
Right.
It was hilarious when he would call himself the deporter in chief, which he obviously wasn't.
Yeah.
So what's changed
What a misnomer.
with the Trump administration? I mean, I've noticed a change. I mean, tough talk. I think that works, and that's why people are deporting themselves.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on, Stephanie. It's fascinating. The Obama administration, over the course of 8 years, completely dismantled America's entire immigration enforcement apparatus. As a result, by the time President Trump took office, the borders were out of control. Central American teams, some of whom have connections to MS-13 and are now throughout the country, were flooding the country. The policies of catch and release were allowing immigrants to come in, ask for political asylum, and then be flown to their relatives who were oftentimes illegal immigrants themselves elsewhere in the United States. Our interior enforcement officers were told to sit on their hands, that only the most immigrant felons who had committed the most heinous crimes could be deported, that everyone else was to be let go back onto the streets. He inherited a doozy of a situation, and what is fascinating is that in less than a 2-month period, we saw a dramatic change in the flow of illegal immigrants towards our border, in the attitude of those who were considering coming into the United States. And we saw the interior enforcement apparatus kick into high gear. President Trump, with the executive order that you just mentioned, put 100 new immigration judges throughout the country to start hearing the backlog that's as high as 1 million cases waiting to be heard. And so we have seen, longtime open borders advocates, one of their chief talking points has always been that illegal immigration is out of control because it just simply can't be controlled. There's nothing that we can do to stop it. These folks want to get in, and we're helpless to do anything. Donald Trump took a wooden stake and drove it into the heart of that talking point in a matter of months, and has proven that without a single concrete block on the wall and without a single new Border Patrol hire, that America can regain control of its borders. We can start clearing out our immigration case backlog. We can find and deport criminal aliens, and we can restore the public's confidence in our immigration policies that's been lost for decades now.
Yeah, Dave, you touched on many important issues there. You touched on the fact that a lot of the people that are being kicked out of this country are criminals. And I spent a lot of time examining the media, and it's hilarious to see these reporters that are up in arms that, how dare the Trump administration, get rid of these criminal illegals. I actually heard a reporter complain that Trump referred to those criminal illegals, rapists, murderers, gang members as animals. They said that might hurt the immigrant community. And Dave, I want to tell you, my mom is from Mexico. She came to this country legally. We're not offended. We don't want those bad guys here. We want everyone to go through the process just like my mom did. And yes, she speaks fluent English, and she had to take a test, an English test, which is part of this new immigration plan presented by the Trump administration and alongside with the members of Congress. Well, they're the ones who presented it. And part of it is that you need to learn, you need to be able to speak English, because we can't have everyone from around the world coming in, especially, I have a friend, she's a teacher, and in her classroom, there are students, they're speaking 30 different languages. It's such a challenge.
Yep.
We can't survive as a country like this.
Right, so you mentioned the RAISE Act that was introduced at the beginning of the year and then updated and strongly embraced by President Trump, and was reintroduced last week in a huge press conference. And you know, America's immigration policies are really an outdated relic of the 1960s that fail to bring in the workers who have skills that we need, while bringing in unskilled workers who compete head-to-head with America's underclass and America's population of workers who have less than a high school education. So the RAISE Act is smarter, less expensive, and more fair approach to legal immigration. It falls back on some recommendations from the last presidential commission on legal immigration that was actually kicked off by President Bill Clinton and headed by civil rights icon Barbara Jordan. And this bipartisan commission came back with three major recommendations. One was to cut legal immigration in half. The next one was to do away with extended family chain migration and focus on nuclear family migration. And the last one was to allow people to come in as primary, in packets, so that once an immigrant was chosen, they would bring their nuclear family with them. That is precisely what the RAISE Act does. It would return America's level of immigration to more traditional levels.
Hey, Dave.
It would have a merit-based and skill-based system, much like Australia and Canada.
Yeah.
And it would keep nuclear families together, but do away with the extended and expensive family chain migration. And most people would be surprised to hear that 25% of the legal immigrants who come in every year have less than a high school education, very little English.
Yeah.
Now imagine competing in today's high-tech economy without speaking English.
Well, you
without
can't. Hey, Dave,
any
I want to interrupt you
skills.
really quickly. We're almost out of time, and I really want to ask you this because
Okay.
nobody's questioned
Okay.
this.
I'm sorry.
Well, I think this bill is a step in the right direction. I don't think it goes far enough because it would cut legal immigration in half by 2027. Why wait until 2027? Why not do it now? Like in the next 2 years, because 2027, all these guys are probably going to be out of office, and you know, I just don't see that as a good thing. And then the other part was, yeah, you're going to get people, more skilled workers with visas coming in, but we do need, you know, low skill workers as well. So if I still think the half a million green cards is a high number for Americans to be competing for jobs. So those are my issues.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You said you wanted immigration cut and you want it cut now, and that really reflects some findings from a new Pulse Research poll that polled Americans in 4 key swing states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Florida, and found that 62% of them supported major reductions in legal immigration. I mean, this is a policy that the public embraces. The actual reason why it would phase in lower levels in such an extended period of time is that there are people right now in the channel, and they would, some of them who've been promised visas would be, that promise would be fulfilled, and so the numbers would return back towards more historic levels of 550,000, but FAIR has long called for a cap on legal immigration actually of 300,000, which is actually
that sounds like a fair number, Dave.
Dave,
I got to run. We're out of time, but thank you
right.
again for your
Thank
insight.
you.
Really important topics to discuss.